Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about our all-new SCREEN USA TC3030. As you can see, this is a track-mounted stacking conveyor, and we're going to run through all the functions of this new machine for a quick and easy setup. So let's go ahead and dive into our user control functions. We've got our control panel with our ignition switch and our connector here for our wired track remote. We've got two sets of hydraulics. Our first lever here controls our track and our conveyor. So in the up position, the hydraulic motor for the tracks will be engaged. In the down position, the hydraulic motor for the conveyor will be engaged. Our hydraulic levers to the right, first lever is going to be our hydraulic folding function. That's going to fold and unfold the conveyor assembly. The second lever is going to be for the front hydraulic lift. That's going to set our pitch for the conveyor to give us the height that we want for our, not just our loading height, but also our discharge height. In the center here, we have an RPM control lever. The lever in the up position decreases RPM, and the downward position increases RPM. And we want to make sure that we always start it in the middle position. Now, the wired track remote doesn't have to be installed when we're operating the machine in a stationary position. But you cannot control the tracks without the wired remote. On the control panel is a series of lights. These lights are indicators telling you when something is wrong or if the emergency circuit is not satisfied. Also for the preheat for the glow plugs. If we're having any indicators while running or during shutdown, this gives us insight as to why we're having an issue. On the left and right side of the machine are emergency stop buttons. These buttons operate in a push manner, and you rotate them to release. Now, with the emergency button pressed in, it will cause the engine to shut off. In order to restart the engine, we must rotate the knob and allow the button to release. We also have a shutdown on the remote control. It operates in the same fashion. We push the button, we'll kill the engine, but before we restart, we must twist it to release. To gain access to the engine, we have access panels on the left and right side of the machine. They both operate in the same fashion. We have a lever. We turn, and now we can see the engine. To add fuel to the unit, our fuel tank is right here. You will need a pump or a funnel system to add fuel. The fuel tank does have a level gauge on it. It's a mechanical float system. And to service the engine, we'll access the other side. On the left side of the machine, we have two access doors. The left access door allows us to get to the hydraulic storage tank. As you can see on this tank, we have our fill and vent cap. We have a level with an integrated temperature sight gauge, and we also have our return filter. We need to service this system at 50 hours for wear in, and then normal maintenance, refer to the maintenance schedule. The right door allows us access to our battery cutoff switch, our track solenoids and service for the engine. Here we can add oil, we can check oil, we can change the oil filter, the fuel filter, and service or replace the air filter. Here we can have a closer look at our components. So this component here is our battery kill switch or isolation switch. It does feature a lockout function for your service mechanics when they are operating or working on the machine. Here we have our track solenoids. We have our battery. And on the engine, we have our fuel prime bulb. We have our water separator, our oil filter, the dipstick tube, our fuel filter, our engine air filter, and our radiator. All right, on the right side of the machine here, as you can see, not far from the operator control panel, we have 4 grease points. These grease points are remote mounted for our tail pulley and our head pulley. So there's no need to bring the machine down to a safe level in order to grease the bearings for these units. One of the other components that we want to discuss in this video is going to be the coupling for the conveyor motor. So here we have the hydraulic motor for the conveyor, and inside of this housing is what we call a coupling. It is 2 metal housings with a polymer spider insert in between them. This component takes the sudden forces of the motor and the stop-start effect of a conveyor drum during the operation of starting, stopping, and moving or conveying material. If we ever start to hear metal-to-metal contact noise during any of these operations of the conveyor belt, this is where we want to inspect. We should inspect this periodically during service intervals to make sure that the 2 metal housings are at a proper spacing and that the spider inside of it is not deteriorating or coming apart. The last topic for this video is going to be tracking the conveyor belt. On the left and right side of the machine, you have these access panels, 4 bolts. You can remove the panel, and that allows us to see the pedestal bearing behind it. This pedestal bearing rides in a channel forward and backwards. There's a threaded rod that is attached to this nut or bolt head, and when we thread this in or out, it allows that bearing to slide forward or backward. Some clean out of this channel may be needed to make the adjustment once the machine has been in service for a while. We will adjust the left or right side as needed to make sure that the belt stays nice and centered on the pulleys. Now we're ready to go ahead and fire up the machine. We're going to track the machine around just a little and show you the flow of the operator from startup to moving the machine into position and then raising the machine up to the operating height. In the video, you'll be able to see the controls that are used, and also it is important to note that when we go to unfold the conveyor or fold the conveyor, we don't need the full hydraulic pressure. So we're going to idle the engine down to about half throttle for that process. Once the conveyor is in position, we have 2 safety pins in the front of the machine that you will see we are going to relocate. And this is in order to keep the machine at the proper height and ensure that it does not fall unexpectedly. I'm going to go ahead and connect the remote control, and we'll start the engine. emergency button is not pressed. We'll turn the key to the on position. We'll get an alarm. We'll wait for that alarm to go out. We'll activate the preheat for 5 to 10 seconds, and then we'll crank.